Dear viewers of the Tomphoto channel, I previously owned the Fujifilm X-C 16-50 f3.5 to 5.6 OIS version 1 kit lens and also reviewed it on YouTube. Please see the link below. I liked it a lot but ended up selling it simply because I had accumulated too many lenses. Now I've been using version 2 of the same lens, and here's my report on how I like it. Version 2 of the X-C 16-50 looks identical to version 1, except that it has the number 2 written on it. That's how you'll know. It comes in black and silver. Mine is black, and I think it looks better. Unless you have a silver camera, then both can work. It is still feather light at only 195 grams, accepts 58mm filters that do not rotate when you focus. The lens measures 63mm in diameter and 65mm in length. It has 7 diaphragm blades and 12 elements in 10 groups. It's an aspherical lens with a stepper motor. The largest f-stop is 22 at all focal lengths. The smallest one varies between 3.5 and 5.6 depending on the focal length. As it stands, this lens could be one of the best Fuji travel lenses. The X-C 15-45mm lens offers a lot of competition because it is even smaller. At the same time, its zoom is operated by a motor, something the old-fashioned among us may not enjoy that much. So for many, this is the preferred Fuji zoom lens. But why did Fuji bother to release this version 2 of the lens? The version 1 was already very good. They say that the optical formula of the two lenses is the same. The lenses look the same. The main difference is that the image stabilization that the new version has is a bit better than that in the older version. They say up to 1 stop better. Secondly, the closest focusing distance has become shorter. At the wide angle end, it has come down from 30 cm to 15 cm. At the telephoto end, it has changed from 40 cm to 35 cm. So this is an advancement, making it more macro capable. Thirdly, it is believed to be a bit sharper, as also suggested by one of my good viewers and YouTube friends on this channel. This is something that is not straightforward to prove though, but I can say that the lens is indeed plenty sharp, and I love the results. The thing about Fuji's kit lenses is that they tend to be sharper than the kit lenses by most other manufacturers. If it's a Fuji, it's great. You see, I keep it simple. The lens is probably a bit sensitive to moisture and dust. It is not weather sealed, as you'd expect from a very basic design and affordable price tag. This is not a problem for me, but in extreme climates or conditions, it can be a problem. Some say that when the lens is extended, it's a bit wobbly. I don't see this as a problem. If there is one thing I'd change about this lens, I'd swap the plastic mount with a metal one. However, if you turn too many parts of this lens into metal, it would stop being a lightweight and convenient travel lens. So I think Fuji has done a great job considering the target use. The lens has no buttons to turn anything on or off. So if you want to switch to manual focusing, change aperture, or switch the image stabilization on-off, you'd do that via the camera menu. This is typical of small Fuji lenses. The focusing ring is comfortable to hand, and it too operates by giving orders to the lens motor instead of being mechanical. Autofocus is nicely quiet, but not quiet enough to allow video with camera's built-in microphone. But this tends to be the case with almost every lens. The autofocus is also fast, by Fuji standards that is. The speed depends a lot on the camera and its firmware. See my link below on how to update Fuji camera firmware. I always find out the sweet spot of every lens I test. For this, I photograph a painting, and then I measure the sharpness of the photos at different f-stop values. You'll find links to exactly how I do it down in the text box. And here are the results. The sweet spot values of different graphs were brought to 1 by standardization. So here we look at the relative sharpness, but not absolute sharpness. The lens shows different sharpness graphs at 16, 35, and 50mm focal length. The values that I tested for you today with my Fuji X-T30. The sweet spot values for these focal lengths are 4.5, 5.6, and 7.1. This is where the lens delivers the sharpest results. With a bit of approximation, we can say that these sweet spots are about 3 stops away from the smallest f-stop value, making it easy to remember. Sharpness starts to drop relatively immediately after the sweet spot value. There are no wide plateaus. However, the 16mm graph stands out because it is very flat. I cannot say how much of this good sharpness at very large f-stops is due to some smart modification by the JPEG engine on the camera. You see, at larger f-stop values, diffraction should start to play a role and soften the photo. Camera software can modify this to some extent, something to keep in mind when interpreting these results. Looking at all these curves collectively, it seems that the overall best f-stop range is between 4.5 and 8 for this lens, and that's not a very wide range to choose from. This is a comparison of the sharpness graphs of version 1 and version 2 of the Fuji XC 16-50mm lens. The overall pattern is the same. The sweet spot values are quite similar too, but version 2 has them at slightly smaller f-stop values. The shift is about 1 stop to the left. You might notice that the version 2 sharpness graphs descend more slowly than the version 1 graphs. I cannot say if this is meaningful or not because the version 1 experiments were not done precisely the same way. You see, they were conducted a while ago. Sometimes all it takes is changing the distance between the object and the camera or deviating in some other very small way, and the results will be a bit different. But not to worry, we can certainly draw qualitative conclusions because the overall shapes of the graphs are informative and we can trust the sweet spot values too. My verdict is that the two versions of the Fuji XC 16-50mm lens are very similar. We cannot say based on these graphs which lens is sharper because all graphs were standardized to make the sweet spot values equal to 1. You have to do that because at different focal lengths you photograph different scenes. The Fuji XC 16-50mm version 2 lens is really nice and sharp. The images that I'm showing in the background were taken with my Fuji X-A1 or X-T30. I think of all my cameras, this kit lens goes the best with my X-A1. It really works especially well with the 16-megapixel Fuji cameras, and it looks good in front of them. This is a lens that also used to ship with the Fuji X-T20, for example, and this 24-megapixel camera goes very well with this lens too. To be honest, all of my Fuji cameras work nicely with it. I have not tested this lens with the newest Fujis like X-T5 or X-HS2. If you have done that, please share your experiences in the comments. Did you find those advanced cameras too demanding for the XC 16-50? The lens may not be equal to the XF 18-55, for example, but it goes down to 16mm, and that's actually noticeably wider than 18mm. And I know I'm sounding like a broken record when I say that this lens is light, but I do want to say that again because it makes such a big difference when you travel far and with a small camera. To summarize, let me say that the XC 16-50 version 2 is certainly a lens to consider. It's really practical for traveling. Not a bokeh lens, not a low light performer, but its wonderful image stabilization will make up for some of it. You don't need to shy away from buying it because the amount of photo quality you get for a very modest price tag is quite spectacular. I'll produce more videos on this lens in the future. What I'm particularly interested in doing is using it side by side with the other Fuji kit lenses to see which will win and which will lose. So expect that video from me one day. Thanks so much for watching. I've enjoyed my time with you as usual, and I hope to see you again soon. If you want to consider subscribing to my channel and leaving a like, I'll be happy because that means support. Goodbye.